Hi, it's Sheridan here from the Training Designers Club, which is the place to go for practical L&D support, especially if you work on your own. And today it's the week before Christmas. Everyone's super busy, but I wanted to share just a reflection with you because if, like me, you're probably feeling really busy at the moment, trying to get everything done in what is always the shortest month of the year. Like lots of you, I had lots of things to get finished, and I'll be totally honest with you. Although I desperately wanted to finish by Friday, the 19th, I was a little bit concerned that that wasn't going to happen. Some of my projects have got pushed back, you know, how these things are. And then all the little things that need to get done just seem to keep adding up. And nothing's ever quite as easy as we hope it would be. And in particular, so I've had this one client course design to get finished, promised it by the 19th. We're charging 3 days for it. And I'll be honest with you, I'd already used half of it, more than half of it. And it still felt like I'd only completed half of the project because actually that initial piece, those initial research meetings with the client, those stakeholder meetings that you need to have, where you really get to grips with understanding their business, deciding what they need, creating an outline, taking into account, doing the research, and fitting it all together. That actually took me the best part of a day. And so, for a day's worth of effort, all I had created was a 2-page outline, which doesn't look very much, does it? Following that, you have obviously the review meeting with the client. And then from that, you make the tweaks and then you get into what I would call the detailed design, which is where the bulk of the effort lies. Now, I know that I'm slightly different to many of you who are watching this in that I nearly always design for other people to deliver. So perhaps it is in slightly more detail than you would do if you were delivering yourself. But the fact is, 1/3 of the time in, 2 pages created. So after that second review meeting, I went away and I created the session plan, so all the facilitators' notes in Session Lab, and that took me a full day to do that. Really fleshing out all the ideas, obviously writing out all the instructions for all the activities, making the links into their business, bringing out the examples. So that was a full day's worth of work. And at the end of last week, I thought, I've still got everything else to do. I've still got all the exercises to write, all the trainer's notes to write, all the handouts to create, and of course the slides as well. And I thought, it's going to go over again. And I've got limited time this week. So not only am I going to be doing unpaid work, but it's also going to be tipping into the week of the Christmas week, which I didn't want to do. But the reason for this rambling is to say, once again, there is a reason why I always say focus on your session plan. Because even if you're designing for yourself, if you write really detailed facilitators' notes, it is so easy to pick up and do the remaining course design in those small pockets of time that you have. I know that if you're facilitating, you don't necessarily have the luxury of having a whole day that you can dedicate to design because you're traveling, you're having client meetings, you're following things up, you're preparing for your next session. So if you're lucky, you may have maybe half a day of time to do your design. And you kind of need to be in flow, which is why, again, I'm repeating myself here, but I will keep repeating this, is you need to have that dedicated time to get in flow and do your facilitator's notes. Because when you've written your facilitator's notes in detail, the rest of it is an absolute doddle. And the other great thing is, as I found, in that realizing I am absolutely going to A, finish within the time allocated, so within the 3 days, and B, finish within the time scale, so the Friday that I want to finish, is that all of the mental hard work goes into that scoping out, the analysis, and your facilitator's notes. That's where you need your brain. That's where you need, the human intelligence, your human creativity. That's where you need to really draw on your experience and the nuances of the client that you're designing for. Once you've done that and all that effort, so 2 days it's taken me to do the outline and the facilitator's notes. And then all it takes then is one day to do absolutely everything else because the rest of it, honestly, just drops out of those facilitators' notes. And the joy is that you can use AI to speed up the creation of those trainers notes, those handouts, those exercise briefs, because that's what AI is good at. And as I've found, if you've written good notes in your facilitator's guide, you can just give those to AI and say, write the delegate brief for this exercise. And yes, there's a little bit of tweaking to do, but my goodness me, it is so quick. And again, if you've got detailed facilitators notes, pulling out the key points for a slide deck is again really, really quick. Haven't yet found a way to get AI to do that for me to a satisfactory level, so it still takes time. It takes the second longest amount of time after the facilitator's notes, because obviously we need to format them, we need to find the right pictures, and this, that, and the other. But it is still quicker because you can take the detailed notes in your facilitator's guide, and if you've written a lot, that's what you can put into ChatGPT or AI and say, just condense this into 4 bullet points, 4 one-sentences that I can put on a slide. And it really is amazing how quickly all of that comes together, as long as you put the legwork in up front. So if your back is up against the wall a little bit as we're coming up to Christmas, don't despair. You will get there. And although it sometimes feels like you're doing an unnecessary step if you're creating detailed facilitators notes, it honestly makes everything else so much quicker and easier. And it means that if you're having to fragment your time, you can get back into flow a lot more quickly. So that's my practical tip to leave you with at year end. I know it's a variation of things I've told you before, but it is worth repeating because honestly, it works. For more tips and guidance on things to help make your training design quicker, easier, and less stressful, do check out the rest of the YouTube channel or visit the website, which is www.trainingdesignersclub.co.uk. Check out the free resources or maybe even join our VIP community for on-demand support whenever you need it.